Welcome to LeaderOne Live, where we bring the experts to you.
Welcome back, everyone, to episode 10 of LeaderOne Live. I am Alice Lund, and today we have a special repeat guest, our very own Todd Leddon, Chief Capital Markets Officer and author of Protect the House. Hi, Todd.
Hey, Alice. Thanks for having me back. How you doing?
Yeah, it's great to see you. We were talking right before we went live about the fact that really the first time I went on air was with you, and kind of the catalyst for that was my question was, capital markets are so confusing and I wanted to learn more about them. I think it's something that originators feel like they should really have a good grasp on, is why rates move the way that they do and how pricing works, but it really is very complex. And so, having the ability to chit chat with you and talk through, the mechanics of the secondary market and capital markets, I think is a great way for originators to expand their knowledge of the industry and feel really confident in their approach to loans. So I thought today we could just talk about the book, if that's okay.
Yeah. So you kind of made a pretty good point where, you felt like capital markets is important, but you didn't necessarily feel like you had a total great grasp on how it works, what the ins and outs of it are. And, you're not the only one, Alice. I've actually, throughout my whole career, have had, folks in sales-oriented positions, not even just sales, like operations, servicing, other areas, right? And it's kind of a mystique, right? If that's the correct word. People don't necessarily, they know it has importance. They know it can take a company down or make a company survive. But they don't know like how it works. And so in my career, I've found, when I would talk with other folks about it and why I was thinking the way I was thinking, they just didn't have a grasp of the rest of the knowledge that I knew to come up with the decisions that I was coming up with. So I, looked into the market, and there's like the Fabozzi big white book on securitization analysis. And that thing is like so intimidating. You get into 2 pages of it and you don't quite understand it and you're lost. I didn't want to take that approach. I wanted to take more of like a Main Street, strategy guide where you can pop it open and go to a specific subject that deals with capital markets or that's within capital markets. And then, do a deep dive on that. And then once you get bored reading it, you close it up until you get another question. Oh, well, how does this work in capital markets? And so that's kind of what I want to do, is like a manual that you could come back to. And I did something a little different in my book. I actually put in definitions, right?
Well, that's so important. You hit the nail on the head right there, because you could go through a whole explanation with me and be using an acronym that you assume that I know, and I don't even know what it is you're referencing, and it's uncomfortable to stop you and say, well, wait a minute, what is that? Right. And I think that's the beautiful thing about this book.
Yeah, and we live in a day and age where you could chat GPT something you don't understand, right? But it's kind of nice to just go, oh, okay, that's what he means specifically whenever he talks about, whatever the definition that seems complicated. Then you can always verify it with ChatGPT. But that was one of the strategies whenever I was putting this book together that I really liked. So.
Yeah, and I think what I love about it is that, you didn't write it for, someone learning to, have a job like yours, even though it's very detailed and there's, enough information in there where someone could feel like they're an expert once they've read it. But this is really more, I feel, almost for the field, for those, all of the professionals and the leaders, the originators, those that are hungry for knowledge and want to feel confident and understand things on a deeper level, but that, we're not going to take our Series 7 and we're not going to be getting a job in capital markets. Like,
right. And I specifically in the book, I try to bring in culture, right? Some of the things that you can optimize in one company, you might not be able to do the same thing in another company just because the culture is different. And so I try to bring that realness. And I actually had a guy reach out to me about the book, and he's like, I loved how you kind of described that this might be the optimal way, but in this kind of organization where you have X, Y, and Z occurring, you just can't do that. And so it makes you feel like, okay, well, if you are a capital markets person, you can read it and go, oh, okay, I am kind of on the right same page. And then the angle of that for somebody that doesn't even understand why somebody would want to do it a different way because of the culture that they have, maybe it gives them insight into why it's maybe not the most optimal way, but it's the most optimal way for the culture that you're in.
That's true. You're kind of opening up maybe people that are in your position that are all about the numbers to be thinking about other departments and to be, more of a collaborator, which you always are, which is fantastic to have someone in your position that's really thinking about sales, thinking about marketing, thinking about relationships. And that's something that you cover, in the book.
Yeah, it's because there's so many different departments in an IMB, and they all have to understand each other to be successful. Maybe there's going to be that one day where a borrower clicks a button and gets a mortgage instantaneously, and it's AI doing it all. But that's not the world that we live in today. So,
no.
You need to understand your department.
I thought it would be fun is if we just kind of popped open the book and maybe just kind of talked about a chapter.
Sure.
If that would work. I was thinking, so chapter 5, which I think is of interest to the field a lot and of interest to everybody, is hedging interest rates, hedging interest rate risk for a pipeline of originated mortgage loans. So maybe we could just dig into that a little bit and what you thought was really important to cover in that chapter.
Yeah. So when I wrote this chapter, obviously I really took the thought of somebody not really understanding hedging. And so, you hear the term, there's a hedge fund, right, on Wall Street. And those hedge funds are actually just trying to arbitrage different financial instruments and make money. That is just not the case when it comes to mortgage banking and hedging. All you're trying to do is make sure that you retain the value that you offer the borrower on the loan, the interest and the price. You're trying to maintain that through the whole process of origination. And then
this is of particular interest and importance and probably a big part of your job when we're in a market like we are right now with a lot of volatility.
Yeah, anytime you have a lot, look, if the market didn't move at all, you wouldn't need hedging. Right. The problem is the market moves all the time. And so you might be a loan officer and like a certain program doesn't work, right? And you have to put the borrower into a different program. Well, that changes the commitment on the back end, right? And so like that simple change or the loan characteristic changes or the LTV changes, that changes the economics and what the value is in the market. So you have interest rate movement, and then you got the volatility of what the mortgage is actually going to become at the end, right? So as you guys are working pipelines, nothing is just static and perfect all the time. And that's the same thing with hedging. So you have to look, this shows like how important each milestone is within the process after you've locked and originated. And, as you get farther down the milestones, I actually put on more hedge coverage because there's more likely that it's going to pull through. So whenever a loan first just gets requested, I don't do 1-to-1. So in here, the book, it shows the process. I give examples of, hey, if it's, this type of program, in these different nut rates, it needs to probably go into one of these 2 coupons. And then I talk about how much, and then I talk about, when you put the pull through curve based on where the milestones are with the borrower.
Let me ask you this. Do you ever go as far as to, if it's like a big producer or something, to say, I'm going to also look at the pull through of that originator? I mean, is it to that level ever?
So that stuff all gets captured on, they're part of the big equation, right? But when you hedge, you don't hedge specifically, because of this LO or this LO.
Yeah.
But as a capital markets guy, or a division head that's watching his pull through, he can find that out, or he or she, and be able to try to advise that person that, hey, can you make sure that you cancel more of these locks?
Yeah,
right?
I think that is something that we need to, and we've had those conversations before on our team and within our division, is that our integrity on when we're locking things and keeping our pipeline accurate is really important to the greater success of the organization and how competitive we can be.
Yes, because if you're not canceling loans, that causes a differential on how much coverage I'm actually taking down, and that could cause slippage. And if that causes slippage, that changes what you can offer a borrower going forward on rates, because if there's too much slippage, you got to somehow offset that. You got to change your cost structure, or you got to tighten up your data and tighten up your execution of your pipeline. So it's huge. And I think seeing this data, or seeing these examples right in this book, kind of makes you go, okay, well, that's not just BS that they say, hey, I should cancel my loans when I know for sure, right? Like, you're able to put 2 and 2 together and go, okay, it does matter. It does make sense. And the other thing too is when the market's moving, right? Like, rates are going down, your old loans, or the loans that you've hedged, you've made commitments on. And so people are like, oh, well, pricing's so much better today. Why can't I just get that pricing?
Yeah, new loan officers are, I think, always saying that. Why can't I just
relock?
What's
because
the deal?
It wouldn't have been a lock if I didn't lock in your older price, right? It would have been a floated loan that if the market went down, you would have had downward worse pricing or worse rates. If it goes up, you'd have better. You don't want to play that game as a loan originator, and you don't want your company to play that game, whenever we're trying to maintain margins and protect margins so we all have a livelihood. So
protect the house.
Yes, protect the house. And the house can be your business. It can be whatever it is, your little piece you're trying to protect. It just so happens I'm trying to protect the margins for the company, where the better data you give me, the more you protect your house and your pricing and your opportunity. So in different markets, I'll also adjust the pull through. There's, we look at historical stuff. And so there's a couple of different components that actually adjust how much coverage is taken. Because coverage, you'll learn what a long asset is and a short asset. It's real simple. A long asset is something that you own and you have. A short asset is something that you owe somebody that, right? So when you put a long and a short together, you lock in the market volatility. Because as one's losing, one's gaining. As one's gaining, one's losing. And that makes it stable within the time period. So I try to emphasize that in that chapter, which I think, maybe you use this book and then look at ChatGPT on certain questions that don't make sense to you. I don't know, but I tried to do it very easily, or I tried to communicate it very easily with examples.
You've got great visuals and charts, and you use simple language, and it's an encyclopedia. And
yeah, you got to be patient, got to go slow, but that's encyclopedia reading, right?
But it's also interesting, and it's also relevant. And I think especially we're seeing a lot of shifting in the market right now. Originators are probably paying more attention to price, now than they have been in years past, and they want to be more a part of understanding that they're getting a good price when they're working with an IMB? Like, does this organization have good policies? Are they solid? Because not everyone is doing this as well as the next guy. So beyond the advice of like an originator going and buying your book, which they should, how do you think you could advise someone who's interviewing IMBs as to the types of questions they should ask about capital markets and how those run within an organization that will help them figure out if that model is going to do well for them?
I think you would want to get some insight into their analysis on hedging and how they or which organizations or third party, or if it's an in-house system. If it's an in-house system, it's kind of hard to make sure that, it's quality.
And could you explain that a little bit, in-house versus?
Yeah, like if you use an Optimal Blue or an MCT or MCM, there's, they have been doing the process and you're utilizing their services. And there's a lot of auditors that are familiar with those third-party hedging firms. And so they have confidence in it. So that's a pretty good understanding. But if you have, a fairly new beginning IMB, they're a broker shop, and then they decide that they wanted to start banking, and then they decide, oh, well, look, I can get 25 basis points more if I hedge. They might be lured into that. If they're trying to put their own trades down and their own using some analytical system that's internal, it's not saying that they're wrong and that they're not doing it right. It's just the likelihood to be like, well, how did they do in 2020 with margin calls? How did they do in 2022 when premium left in mortgage-backed securities? Were they able to maintain the hedge position? And was the hedge position accurate to the loan position? Did they maintain the margins? Did they protect their house? Right.
And a lot of companies did not, which is why we saw a lot of mergers. And
yeah, I mean, you're still hearing today where there's certain IMBs that are struggling, and then it's interesting within investors are actually consolidating at this moment. So it's a discipline. You want to make sure the capital markets department is disciplined, and so look, it's really hard even when you're just to really figure out who your boss is when you go to a new company, right? Let alone if their capital markets department is doing the right thing. But
something the interviewer question, like tell me about the structure of your capital markets, and you could really probably throw somebody off you
totally throw somebody off. Whereas I think once you land into that company or whatever, and you're interested in certain things, I think this book gives you a good platform to bounce off of whenever you're communicating to your capital markets people, right? Like, hey, what's your thoughts on this? I was, reading this book or whatever, and I was kind of interested in this, and they, oh yeah, we do that, blah, blah, blah. Like that helps you sound smarter, not just to sound smart, but to know that they are doing stuff that makes sense to you as a.
Yeah, no, and I think at the beginning it is sounding smarter, right? Because it does take a while to completely sink in and to completely make sense. But we were talking about the example of, how to build out your product line and what all is involved in that. And referencing this book, you read about all the things that are involved in, determining whether or not we can bring a product on, whether or not we want to work with an investor, and everything in between, so that you're not that loan officer going to capital markets or products and saying, why can't we sign up for this?
Yeah. And I hear that a lot of times, like, why can't we have it? These guys have it. We should be able to get it. We're the same size, right? Well, there's a process to that where, first you have to find the right person at the investor, and then they have to want you, and they'll want to know if they want you through a due diligence process. And I go through these steps in the book. And then after that, this game's on, right? Like everybody's good to go. there's another whole process behind actually implementing the products that they can offer correctly.
Yeah, you go through all this work, and then people then have to use the product too.
That's the thing that could be very frustrating for capital markets guys.
Right?
You go through all the products, the process, and the product, we got to have it. We got to have it. We got to have it. And, okay, it makes sense. I even say, hey, we got a use a form, some sort of way of actually bringing in the data on why you need to have this product. And then all of a sudden, if it's just based on price and their price goes away the minute you launch, that's a bummer. That's a bummer.
Yeah.
So it's just stuff you can't predict, right? But I just, in this book, I want to, LOs and branch managers go, okay, I guess there is a process. I get it. That's all I really wanted to be able to convey is like, there's a process here.
Well, you did it so well, and we've only just scratched the surface. So more to come. You have to come back on, and we'll talk through another couple of chapters. And it's always great to see you, Todd. And
good times, Alice. Yeah, definitely. I'll be back to chapter talk if you want to do some
sounds
chapter
good.
talking. Okay.
Thank you so much.
You
See
bet.
you next time.
Bye.